What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of This is the World Christian Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle. This is your other host, Jasmine. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss when we drop a video. And today we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different. Today is going to be the yoga episode. Can Christians do yoga? Is it demonic? We're going to go through all of that today. And then afterwards, we're going to go over some comments, and that will be the podcast. All right, so to start off, the whole reason we're even doing this episode, for those that have been here long enough, y'all know I'm about to have a baby. And I asked Jasmine just out of curiosity. I was like, I'm so confused about the yoga thing because, as a Christian, I know to some degree we're not supposed to be doing it, but yet, because you're supposed to do some level of activity while pregnant, I keep hearing this a lot, that we're supposed to be doing yoga. And I wasn't really sure where to place it. Prior to me ever becoming Christian, I did try yoga before in the past. I didn't get it. I'm not going to lie to you. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand the poses and all that. And I don't know. I even tried the meditation thing before. My mind could never be cleared. I was always thinking about something, or I just fell asleep. I didn't get it in the slightest. I know you did a video. Well, I don't want to say recently because you've been on vacation, but it was the last video on your channel was about it. What's your history with like yoga or anything before we jump into it?
So I wasn't a yogi, but for a brief time, when I had a membership years ago at the local gym, I did do sunshine yoga, which was like a beginner's, like very low effort relaxation yoga. And I did it for about maybe 3 months until I got into some other class that I liked more. But that was pretty much it.
All right. So you were never big into it.
Yeah.
Now, were you like me? Did you ever like get it? Did you understand the point of like the poses or meditation when you did it, or?
No, not really. I was mostly just working on my flexibility. And just trying to warm up for the workout I was going to do afterwards. So that was the mentality that I went in with.
Okay. We weren't that far off from each other then. Because I looked at it as the same thing, like a little quick stretch thing before actually working out. But I just didn't get it. So I ended up doing like the basic stretches I learned when I was like doing athletics in school. So I never got into it. But obviously becoming Christian and you start reading the word and everything, you come across this point because I guess yoga is like really popular now. It like now I think about over the past couple years, it got like really big over here in America. And I don't know. I just never understood it, never got it. But now that I'm Christian, it doesn't mesh well with like the word in like the slightest, because it's not from Christianity, it's from a whole other religion.
Hinduism, I believe, is the actual, like, it is inherently a Hindu spiritual practice. And so some of the things that we're going to look at today is going into some of the detail of the roots of yoga, the roots of the poses, what they mean, and some of the objections that Christians have presented to yoga.
Yeah. So I think the first thing I'm going to pull up is the website you actually referenced in your video. It's from Himalayan Yoga Institute. And it basically says the spiritual side of yoga, what it means, and how to achieve it.
And just to note that Himalayan Yoga Institute is not a Christian source. This is a yoga institute that they want you to learn yoga from and what it means. So I found that valuable to hear it from them themselves. What do these things mean? Instead of a Christian, trying to break it down, I wanted to hear what they had to say about it.
Yeah, hear both sides of the fence, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it says while most people take up yoga training for its physical benefits, the practice of yoga can benefit us in various other ways. It's deeply rooted in spirituality, and many of the postures have deeper objectives that go beyond simple stretching and strengthening of muscles. The holistic effect that is attained through yoga enables practitioners to not only improve their physical strength and flexibility, but also their emotions, mentality, and concentration. And see, that's one of like, this is all this right here is why I tried it to begin with. I just, none of it, none of it worked and none of it did anything on me. Um, Looking at it now, I don't know if that was God, like, that's not for you. I don't want to get too deep into that because there's a lot of Christians that will fight you on this, that will just be like, no, I do yoga and I'm just fine. It's like, hey, whatever works for you, I guess. But like, there's no connection at all for me, even prior to becoming a Christian. Um, but this right here, where it says the ancient science, this ancient science goes far beyond the mere physical aspects by way of deepening the connection between mind, body, and most important of all, the spirit. The spiritual aspect of yoga can help yogis develop integration of the inner being as well as oneness with the supreme consciousness. And it all starts with the body and the asanas or postures. This, well, all of this right here is an issue. And I know you mentioned this in your video because the whole thing about trying to become one with the supreme consciousness is very off.
And when you look at this through a spiritual lens, which we should be looking as Christians, because our priority is God, and then everything else falls after that. So our biblical worldview should be the filter that we view everything in. And so this applies. So if yoga, the point of yoga is to, at least the spiritual aspect according to them, is to help you develop an integration of the inner being, our souls, with the one, as well as oneness with the supreme consciousness. I don't see anything about Jesus Christ in there at all.
Not at all.
It's not to achieve peace through knowing Jesus, through connecting with Jesus through prayer. It's and supreme consciousness. I just find it interesting that they have uppercase letters on that, as if it is an entity, not just, you know what I'm saying? Like there's something going on there.
I thought about that too. And then by the way of deepening the connection between mind, body, and most important of all, the spirit. So you know how in when you do yoga and you hit the poses and they tell you to clear your mind and empty it out, and because you're supposed to go to a whole other place essentially. It made me think, because I've been hearing the term lately, Christian yoga. And I'm like, well, what's Christian yoga? And I was thinking, I was like, what if you're doing these poses, but instead of emptying your mind, you're listening to scripture, or maybe that's what your focus is on? Would that be more acceptable, or is there still something with the poses that would just still not align with that? I guess that's still my thinking on a lot of this.
And that's where I find this to be a difficult conversation, because one of the criticisms that I got on the video, well, I got two objections. One that I respected a little bit more came from Tyree. Hi, Tyree. I'm sure if you're with us that you may remember the comment. But you said you were a practitioner of yoga, but that you meditate on the scriptures, and you brought up a scripture that maybe we'll pull it up too.
Yeah, I think I have the comments up on your channel.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
go to
show her.
Tyree's.
Yeah, just so I don't misquote her or anything. But
Yeah, here we go.
It definitely addresses the question that you just brought up, because I think that it's a valid point that she brings up.
Yeah. So this is Tyree's comment. She says, I'm going to explain that I do yoga. I'm not sure what others' reasons area, but here's my justification. Firstly, the body is made by the Lord. If I don't stretch, especially as I get older, it's easier for worse injuries to develop. This body broken by sin, the breathing is also designed by God. For if it wasn't for the Lord's breath, we would crumble down as a pile of dirt.
So right there, I agree with everything thus far. Like,
okay,
you're absolutely right. The body is made by the Lord. It's good to take care of this body by stretching, by being active. Our body is indeed broken. The breathing is indeed designed by God. There's nothing inherently wrong with any of the physical things that you brought up. So yeah, let's continue.
Okay. She says, second, the enemy will do anything to try and taint the creator's creation more so. When I'm doing yoga, my eyes are on the Lord. My heart sings to him. If I'm afraid to maximize what may allow me to be able to be mobile and serve him better, I'm very well to be ignored the direction that I am being led. No pop yoga class that I have been to have gone into anything but breath work and stretching. They may use the name of the exercise, but there is no talking of reaching the inner spirit. Finally, 1 Corinthians 8 comes to mind. I'm not worshiping the idols, I'm just stretching my body that the Lord gave me. Now, if doing yoga before someone else might make them stumble, then I'll be mindful when to do it.
Okay, so she brings up a lot of interesting points in what you just read.
Corinthians 8.
So, while you're pulling that Bible verse up, the pop yoga class that you mentioned, which, just like, you're not going to like a yoga studio where they're burning incense, I would imagine. You probably had some like random gym, right? Like I was. Popular yoga class, surface level, whatever. And I think I don't have an answer for that. But where my mind goes with that is more about, like, if something is inherently against God, and we would argue that yoga is against God in its nature, like what it actually is, the Hindu practice, right?
Yeah.
If we kind of Americanize it, if we surface level it, does it change what it is? I don't have an answer for that, because maybe, and can we think of another example in which we would do the same thing? I'm trying to think, maybe like music related, or I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's like, okay, so I know we're going to talk about this later in the comments, but with the holidays, what they were originally made for, but where they kind of are now, which is backwards, because this originally is from Hinduism, but we're trying to work it out to be okay in a certain sense, where it's like, if I just focus on this and we just do this and we don't talk about the inner spirit, this would be okay. That's kind of like the holidays we're going to be talking about later, but just in reverse, where it starts out holy, but now it's been like corrupted, but that's all we know it for is the corruption.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where my mind goes when it comes to, like, okay, can we separate that as Christians? Is it a liberty issue where it's like, okay, well, me personally, I don't feel comfortable doing yoga, like going into a yoga class, doing the lotus pose, saying namaste, even if in my mind I'm like, oh, I love you, Jesus. But it's like, I know in my heart that this is, and this is probably something we should add for context too, that the spiritual practice of yoga, it's all connected to the Hindu god Brahma. So it's like all of these things are purposeful. The words are purposeful. the chanting, the meditation. You're trying to clear your mind and connect with this deity. So I don't know that I could separate myself from that, but maybe another Christian can. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So basically, this is just like discernment then, because the woman from the interview, what's her name again? Angela Usi. So she's the one from the Michael Knowles interview from your video. And she does, I think she basically said she does yoga now, but it's more like Christ focused.
So I don't think she does.
Or maybe I'm getting her confused because I
there
have
might be
another
another
tab
one.
up.
Yeah, there might be another one, but to
I'm
me,
sorry. I got her confused with another woman. I'm sorry.
You're okay. There's a lot of people out there in the world.
There is. There's another woman. It's another tab I have up. Her name's Lorette. I'm sorry. But she does something called praise moves, but it's more with a Christian focus. So they're not saying like how you said namaste and doing certain poses. They're playing like Bible verses, just she's reciting stuff out loud as they stretch. So maybe, I mean, I guess if you're using your discernment on that level, because we have to stretch, we have to exercise. But I think there's better ways to go about it than that class. Because I'm like you, I can't go to a yoga class where they're like more traditional, I guess. Not like what Tyree's talking about. Because that's the same thing. I love cooking videos. And there's this Muslim cook. I like watching him, but before they eat, their version of praying is saying Nam Salah or something like that. But every time he says it before he eats the food, I don't say what he says. I say Nam Nam Nam, like like you're eating. Because it's to me that's funnier, and it's not me saying something that has nothing to do with Christ, So
that's fair. That's definitely fair. And one of the things that I think, like, I do think that there's nuance to this. One of the things that struck me as interesting was the comment that the woman made in the video that I reacted to from the Michael Knowles interview.
Yeah.
She was a yogi. She was a yoga instructor. Yeah. She was a new age practitioner. She was an astrologist. So she was very, very deep in this demonic religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then found Jesus. And what she's trying to convey is that as someone who was very, very deep in this lifestyle, yoga has a deep significance. So if you are, she brought up the Bible verse of you can't drink from the cup of the Lord.
I have it right here.
Yeah, I'm not super great at memorizing.
Yeah, she said from 1 Corinthians 10:21, says you cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons. Which, I mean, she's right. You can't. That's basically the Bible verse where they're saying, like, you can't be on the fence. You can't be lukewarm. You're either on one side or the other.
But then in the same breath, with the praise moves or, some pop yoga class where we're real surface level, we're not talking about the namastes and stuff. Could there be some discernment? Like, is this a liberty issue? Because the last thing I want to do is be legalistic. For example, I love bringing this up because it makes you laugh. The Chosen. Okay? We got called false converts, y'all, because we like The Chosen, and people are it's demonic. Okay, I did.
You did, because I didn't watch it at the time.
It's great. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a liberty issue. That doesn't mean you're a fake Christian. It doesn't mean that when you watch, a season of The Chosen, that you're inviting a false Jesus and you're like loving on demons now.
Yeah.
Could there be something like that with yoga where it's like, well, I'm just doing a pop yoga. This is a liberty issue. Like Tyree said, as long as it's not a stumbling block for someone, then should we let this divide us as the church?
No, because this is on the same level as because I may not get it, right? I may not ever be connected to this, and I wasn't connected to it prior to Christianity. But this is like, I've heard people say Christian rap isn't like good either. And I'm like, they're literally talking about the Lord and stuff. And I've heard the same argument. They're just like, Jesus would never allow this to happen and blah, blah. But I'm like, if the song's praising him, who cares? It's just another form of worship. It's just modernized by like rap at this point. So
yeah, and I see that a
know.
lot too with there's a lot of channels out there who I think their heart is really in the right place. I really do. I think they really try to follow scripture, and that's wonderful. But what I do see is a very certain view of like how we should worship. And so like hymns, and like if you listen to Bethel, and look, I know Bethel's got some things about it, right? Or Hillsong, or I get it, right? I totally understand. But then they'll say like if a church is playing a song from Hillsong or Elevation Worship Team or whatever, that, oh, that is not worship, and you should be listening to hymns. And it's like, well, first of all, that's very culture. That's very culture, because like to me, listening to hymns would be very strange and different, and very like I would have a difficult time connecting in the same way where I grew up. Okay, if anybody's watching is Hispanic or Puerto Rican, then you know what a corito is. And it very much sounds like our folk music from Puerto Rico. Like it is a completely different style. But guess what? It's based on the word. Yep. And our hearts are oriented towards God. And we are giving our all, which I think you can do through a lot of different ways. So if it's hip hop, because that's just what, it's a culture thing.
It is.
You know, and so I don't want to be legalistic in the sense of like, okay, well, much in the same way of worship styles. Yeah. Well, the TV shows you watch, yeah, you know, you got to be cautious, but it doesn't mean that you're not, you know, it doesn't mean you're inviting demons either. You know what I'm saying? We got to be careful with that language, because then it gets really dicey and divisive.
Yeah. I think we talked about discernment on the episode. We talked about the Disney stuff, like the Disney movies and everything, where I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of stuff where it's just like, my kids wouldn't watch this. But in the same breath, that's when somebody pointed out the little plushie back here, and they're just like, hey, you have a South Park plushie, and that's evil and blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's an adult-centered cartoon. They use certain language. They, they rip on everybody. So it's not just Jesus they rip on. But like I said, it's like, I'm not connected to this. Like,
yeah,
that's where my heart is. So I get it. I get what Tyre is saying. She's just like, I don't be doing X, Y, Z. I just be stretching.
And I get that too. I totally do. I think there's a lot to yoga, and I don't know if we'll cover it here maybe, but there's a lot to the actual practice that when you look into the details of what these poses mean, what the history behind yoga is, a little bit more about the religion of Hinduism, which I am no expert, right? But from the small amount of research that I've done, it's very hard to justify yoga. But can you reclaim yoga? Maybe that is a different conversation. Maybe you can. Much like praise moves, or what, like real surface level, like we're just stretching like Tyre, like maybe you can reclaim it. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, so let me bring up the whole praise moves thing, because I know people watching probably like, what are they talking about? But this is who I got confused with, the woman that Michael Knowles interviewed. But the woman who does this, she created the praise moves program. And it says it utilizes gentle stretches that correlate with scripture verses. So there's the eagle stretch, where the arms are pulled back to resemble a bird in flight. And while students hold this stretch, Lorette reads Isaiah 40:31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Other stretches include the angel, the rainbow, and the altar. And then at each session's end, students are asked to prayerfully consider a verse from the Bible or to spend some quiet time expressing gratitude to God. So this would technically kind of be like you're reclaiming it and making it your own thing for Christians.
Mm-hmm. I love that. See,
Yeah.
and it's there's nothing inherently bad about positioning your arm and your leg in a certain way while you stand like a tree to like hit the muscles different, right? Or like, you know, stretch out your ligaments or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with orienting your body in a certain way. It's the yoga ritual, because it is a ritual. That's where the problem is. So absolutely, like, this is a different thing. You're moving your body in a different way, but you're not calling it yoga. This is not yoga. This is a different thing. It's you're not even doing the same poses, none of the names. We're not doing the namastes. We're doing Bible verses. Like, it is a different thing. So I think this is awesome. You can reclaim it, I guess.
Yeah. I think this is cool too. And then she mentions right here, when you mentioned the Brahma thing, it says the goal of all yoga, Loretta explains, is to obtain oneness with the universe, which is what we were talking about. That's also known as the process of enlightenment or union with Brahma, which is Hinduism's highest god. And the word yoga means union or to yoke. So, like you're saying, everything is so you can be basically one with this person, which is that's their god. And I saw another video earlier today. I don't remember who. I saw a lot of videos earlier today, but they were basically saying how like their gods believe in every 2,000 years. That's like when everything ends and you start over again. They make new creations and all this. And that's why you want to become one with them. So depending where you are, once that 2,000 years hit and they, destroy and start over, they make you into a newer creation and you might be something better than the last time. It's something weird like that. But that's how it was broken down in that video. And I was like, yeah, I guess. Now, if somebody's actually like Hindu watching this and they'd be like, that's false, feel free to correct me. I'm not Hindu and I don't have years of study on this. So,
yeah, definitely we want to learn different perspectives on this. So, yeah. If we get any of the facts wrong, then please let us know.
Yeah, feel free. So,
definitely. And there was something that from Tyree's comment that I wanted to discuss was the Bible verse she brought up, and that referred to what was it?
Oh, 1 Corinthians 8.
Yeah.
Oh, I brought that up.
Oh,
I could bring that up. Yeah, here we go.
Sacrifice. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this Bible verse that she brought up, it says, take care with your liberty. It says, now concerning things sacrificed to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge makes arrogant, but love edifies. If anyone supposes that he knows anything, he is not yet known as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by him. Therefore, concerning the eating of things sacrificed to idols, we know that there is no such thing as an idol in the world, and that there is no God but one. For even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is but one God, the Father, from whom are all things, and we exist for him, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, by whom we are all things, and we exist through him. However, not all men have this knowledge, but some, being accustomed to the idol until now, eat food as if it were sacrificed to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. But food will not commend us to God. We are neither the worse if we do not eat, nor the better if we do eat. But take care that this liberty of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone sees you, who have knowledge, dining in an idol's temple, will not his conscience, if he is weak, be strengthened to eat things sacrificed to idols? For through your knowledge, he who is weak is ruined, the brother for whose sake Christ died. And so, by sinning against the brethren and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food causes my brother to stumble, I will never eat meat again so that I will not cause my brother to stumble. So that's what she was talking about.
Yep. So in the context of yoga, I guess we could say that yoga would be, I mean, it is a spiritual practice for other gods, not the God of the Bible.
Yeah.
And so, like we said, there is a discernment thing. So there's a liberty thing, out, at least if we're applying this verse to the context of the conversation. There's a liberty thing. But let's say if someone in your yoga class knows you're Christian, and they see you doing yoga, well, it's fine. And so maybe some of the other things that yoga gets involved with, like let's say yoga and Reiki healing, yoga and tarot cards, yoga and law of attraction, or reading The Secret by Oprah, some of these other things that often go hand in hand. It could be a stumbling block for someone else, or somebody who is a new Christian sees you who are a little bit more mature in the faith. They might be like, oh, well, if this is okay, well, then this other thing must be okay, because like that, again, these things go hand in hand. And maybe I don't go to this pop yoga class, but I go to the yoga institute down the street. Well, I'm Christian. That girl's Christian. It's fine. So we don't even know like the seeds that could be. I mean, I don't know that if that's all on any particular person, but definitely that's kind of where my mind went. I know that was kind of all over the place, but
no, you're right though. But that's like Tyree said. She said, if me doing yoga before someone else might make them stumble, I'll be mindful. So it sounds like she is thinking about that. Because you are right. If you're new, I mean, somebody new in the faith, they're not going to know a lot. And I know when I was new in the faith, people were coming from all directions trying to be like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to believe. No, you're supposed to believe that. And it does become overwhelming because you're just kind of like, where did all of you come from? You know? So that's another reason why you gotta really just go to the Bible for everything. Because you can easily get caught up in some stuff that's not for God, like at all.
Yeah, and as much as like having too much liberty is a problem when you're walking with Christ, and it's like, oh, well, I could do whatever I want as long as I'm not sinning, or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it's also on the other spectrum, legalism is a problem, where it's like, actually we do have liberty in Christ. It can be difficult to discern, especially because even when you do go to Scripture, well, we could pull up, just like we did in this episode, right? We pulled up, the cup of demons, and that could fit this, and then what Tyree brought up, well, that could fit this. It gets pretty confusing. So I struggle with the same thing. I'm looking at like, how do we apply the principles of the culture to all the conflicting information, right? Like, how do we discern?
Yeah.
Should we do yoga? Do we have liberty to do yoga? Or is that drinking for the cup of demons? Do we have liberty to be gay? Or is that drinking for the cup of demons? Like, it's all over the place.
Well, the gay thing is
okay, I should clarify. This is coming from like, if you're a new Christian and you're trying to figure out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So I guess like when it comes to the core doctrines, that's where we have to be extremely clear and not budging. Yeah. But on these secondary issues, I think we have to have a lot of grace. Where I personally, I don't know if I would ever do yoga because of how I feel about the practice in itself. But am I going to come out Tyree and be like, you're not Christian. You need to stop. You are sinning. You need to go to confession or repent or whatever. No, that's hateful. That's actually hateful.
That reminds me, when we talk about how some people have that Pharisee mindset where they're just like so stuck on it. Because you'll come across the Christians where like if you have a tattoo, they're just like, oh, you're not supposed to have a tattoo, you defiled your body, you're going to hell. And it's like you realize people don't start out Christian, right? Like a lot of us were like atheists, and when we were atheists, we got tattoos. It's just a
Yeah.
thing. So I
And a
think
lot
it,
of people can argue too that tattoos are a liberty issue. You can make the
yeah.
case both ways. You really can. So I think
Yeah.
like grace is the most important aspect.
Yeah, you can, because they have the Bible verse. It's like you're not supposed to mark your body and blah blah blah. And it's like, I get that, but what do you do if you come in after already doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Like you think now that like I done gave my life to God, He's gonna be like, good job, but boy, did you mess up before you got here. So we're gonna take you down to hell. Like if that's the
Yeah.
case, a lot of us not making it.
No, no. And I think the blood of Jesus is a lot more forgiving than we
Yeah.
Christians can be. And it's something I've really thought about lately, especially since I've been on hiatus with my channel for a few weeks. Because sometimes when I'm like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When we're looking for content and we're trying to think about the issues so that we can talk about them, you get all this conflicting and all this like arguments and debates
Yeah.
in Christian circles. It's one thing if it's coming from like atheists or another religion or New Agers, but
Yeah.
when it's like Catholics versus Protestants versus Pentecostal versus Lutherans, and it's like, it's overwhelming. Like, I just want
It
to
is.
back away and like, what I found solace in the last few weeks is like, let me read the word and pray because my peace is not going to come from like any opinion online, even if
Yeah.
it's from brethren, like it can be a little much for people.
Yeah. I think because I hit you up Friday, we talked about it for a minute. Because I was really thinking, I was just like, you know what, I'm kind of over it. I was like, I'm glad I don't live stream anymore. And I know I'm supposed to do videos and stuff. I'm just like, it happened when it happens. But then, like, right after that, it was so weird. It's like right after we had talked, I had like this weird thought in my head that was just like, you shouldn't be thinking like that. And that's wrong. You know, you missed the people from your live stream. And I was just like, yeah, I guess, whatever. I blew it off. And it was so funny because, like, right after that, Tyree actually hit me up. And then, like, KL hit me up. And then I randomly popped in a Gothic stream today. And then, like, all the same subs we share was just like saying, we miss you. And we've been praying for you. And I'm just like, I really do miss y'all. I don't know why I was tripping.
Because the internet is so it's exhausting,
It
but there
is.
are little beacons of light, and I like to think of our audience as beacons of light, even if
Yeah.
we don't agree on everything. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like Tyree, you're always pointing out different things on our channel, and we really appreciate that. Even if we have, different points of view or perspectives, it's okay. Like I
Yeah.
looked up that Bible verse that she put on there, 1 Corinthians 8, and because she put that on there, I spent like half an hour just researching. Okay, let me read this commentary about it and this
Mm-hmm.
commentary about it, And I was gonna respond on YouTube, but then I'm like, you know what? I need a break from YouTube. But little beacons of light like that, where it's like, even if we don't come to the same conclusion, this is what it means to be the body of Christ, is that
Yeah.
in love we discuss and we argue, and not in an ugly way, but to really
Yeah.
refine. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. That's why I do like it too, because every time we do get comments, I do be looking stuff up. And it just helps you see like the other side, I guess. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you, the defending porn comments, I couldn't see that at all.
No. Yeah,
But, you
no.
know. But stuff like this, I get it. I get why people do it. I get why some Christians are like so passionate over it just because of like what it does for them. But I'm like you, I don't think I would ever do it. But That's why I said the history part of it first, because to be fair, I also wasn't really into it prior to being a Christian. So that's not going to change now, now that I am, because I already really wasn't into it or connected to this like in the slightest.
Right.
So, maybe one day I'll try the praise moves thing. Because I know like I am going to have to start doing some sort of exercise moving forward now that I have a little burst of energy at this point. So I can't be stuck in a bed all day. Like I got to do something, but I don't know if it'd be this though.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when you're pregnant. I'll be honest. Because it's like, I really don't feel like getting up and moving. I really don't.
Yeah.
But you could try a little praise moves or, do the eagle and the rainbow. And
If my body can bend to that point.
Well, go easy. Go easy.
Yeah, because I'm at the point, everything, if just sitting here too long hurts. That's why if y'all pay attention, you keep seeing me go like this and all this. It's just uncomfortable because my belly just,
Aww.
it's just one of the things I got now. I never had one in my life. Now I got one.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. But all right. I guess we'll end it here. We'll go to comments. But if you guys have any comments about how you view yoga, like you're for it, against it, doesn't matter. And we can talk about it when we do comments for next week's episode. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and we will go from there. All right, y'all. So before we end the episode, we're gonna go over 3 comments really quick. So the first one's from Just a Girl. This is from the Catholic DJ priest video. She says it's sad to see this stuff creeping into the church. That's what we said, but to be fair, because I think I did say this in the video, because I was trying to make a joke saying this isn't a good look for Catholics, but to be fair, no matter what church it is nowadays, all the churches are starting to go downhill. Like, it don't matter, Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, at some point, some church in each of these sectors, you're going to find a bad apple that's just, does not make sense. So it's sad, but it was prophesized. All right, so next one's from Jorge. It's from the same podcast episode, the Catholic DJ one. Now, Jorge left 2 comments, and he also DM'd me. I don't know if he DM'd you as well, but my man was very passionate about this. I think we said this before. Jorge is Catholic, so don't be too mad at us, Jorge. But we'll do this comment. But he says the fact that you'd even say this is satanic is kind of sad. This DJ priest is definitely not my cup of tea, but like the Catholic Traveler said, this is little T tradition. I don't know if he meant to put something else there, but you don't have to like it, but this is not demonic, and it doesn't bother me, and it shouldn't bother you either. Once again, Halloween isn't satanic. Educate yourselves. Neither is Carnival. Look up Lent and how important Carnival is before you enter the Lenten season. So to be fair, we did do, I don't know if you were there, but I remember all the Catholics in my channel earlier this year for Lent was telling me to watch videos about Fat Tuesday, Ash Wednesday, Carnival, and all that. So we did look at that on my channel. When we watched it, and inherently those holidays, like, yeah, they started out good, but the general worldview of today, that's not what any of them holidays are known for. Same as Halloween. And that's pretty much why I mentioned it's satanic, because if you ask the average person nowadays, including your average Christian, they would say Halloween is the devil's holiday. They're not going to reference back to it being like an actual Christian holiday, which we can bring this up real quick, so because you all can learn this as well if you don't know this already. But Halloween is actually a Christian holiday. And I know this says the Catholic's Guide, but when I did my research as well, Catholics aren't the only ones. Like, there's there's certain Protestant churches and stuff too that knows the origins of Halloween and they celebrate it correctly. But most people don't know that, including Christians. And it even says it on here. It says a lot of Catholics also don't know it. You'll get contradictory answers like Halloween's evil, Halloween's fine, Halloween has pagan roots, but we can baptize it and make it something nice. So that goes back to our conversation, where it's like, can you, make this a good thing? But basically, the holiday known as Halloween, basically, this comes from the word holy day, and this was a holy celebration and feast of the church. So Halloween is technically Catholic. It says it is the true and original substance of Halloween. Basically, how we know it, the violence, gore, sensuality, occultism, demonic aspects now associated with Halloween are not in fact true to its origins. They aren't really Halloween at all, although retailers and the entire world of consumerism have made them so for the culture at large. The current version of Halloween is actually a recent development in the context of history. It started out innocently enough, just fun costumes and trick-or-treating. If we go even further down here, it says Christians and non-Christians now fail to realize that Halloween is a hijacked holy day. Both are convinced it has pagan origins, which is why I said what I said in the DJ Priest video. The result is that Catholics react in one of three ways, which is what we said earlier. So go with the flow, celebrate Halloween in a secular way, not give the holiday much thought. 2, insist Halloween should not be celebrated at all. Or 3, insist that Halloween needs to be baptized and turned into a harmless holiday. So how they look at Halloween is basically, to them, it's called All Saints Day or All Hallows Day. And they basically just give praise to the saints that are in the Catholic faith. And I think the day after, because I think Jorge mentioned that as well, I think in the DM he sent me, the day after is when they do like the feast on the calendar after like honoring all the saints and stuff. So I'll be real with you. I have no issues with that. That actually sounds cool. I wish they would actually teach that more. You know what I'm saying? Because I also Googled like stuff you could do with your kids that involves like this, where it's not the version we know,
Yeah. And I think the devil's in the details. Like literally, the devil is in the details where it's like, I don't want to say a blanket statement of like Halloween is good, Halloween is bad. If you are paying attention to how you are celebrating it, like it is not okay for you to dress as a slutty cat and go to a party and grind on men as a woman. Like you shouldn't be doing that. That is debauchery.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be, playing with Ouija boards while you're dressed as a sorceress, like all of these things matter. Yeah. When it comes to, because the Christian tradition that I grew up in, Halloween was viewed as, it's satanic. I was gonna say diabolical. I don't know if that's the word I wanted to use, but whatever. You get it.
Yeah.
Where we weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween because it's bad. It's just bad. Where now I just think of it as like, okay, well, why don't we go to our church's trunk or treat, or let's go. Like my neighborhood does a big, huge trick or treat thing where just like the turnout is amazing out here. So like I dress my kid up as Spider-Man and a little cute dinosaur. I don't think there's anything evil about that. So the devil's in the details. Whether we reclaim it, again, this does matter when you're viewing it as like, okay, are we following the Catholic tradition as the body of Christ, or are we not? Because it matters, right? The Catholics view it a very certain way, and they celebrate it in a very distinct way. And then as this article goes on to talk about, they have different versions in different cultures. And so I wonder, in a way, if the DJ priest thing that we saw is what Jorge meant by little T tradition, where it's like not Catholic tradition, but like little T, like this is a regional thing.
It was, because I remember when we watched the video, I did say this didn't seem like all Catholics did this, because it seemed like it was only secluded to that one village, because I think it was like in Portugal or something, if I'm remembering correctly. My bad, y'all. This was like 2 weeks ago, so
yeah, the details are a bit fuzzy. But so go back and watch it, and we could be totally contradicting ourselves here. I probably am. She's probably good, but I'm probably contradicting myself. But look, I think the ultimate message that is relayed on my heart after, you know, diving into the details of Halloween and this Catholic priest and the yoga stuff is that Christ is what matters. The unity of the church is what matters.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't get too caught up in the things. But one thing that did kind of come to my mind was like, I don't want the things that I practice because a lot of our ministry here, I guess if you can call it that, I don't know if it's a ministry, but what we do online, what you do online, what I do online, and what we do together is oftentimes trying to discern what's happening in our culture from our faith. And I don't want to say, okay, well, you know, we're in the world, but we're not of the world. So like when they look at us as Christians to how we should orient our lives, do we look a lot like what they're doing? Does the Catholic thing that we reacted to, the priest, DJ priest, that looked like a Grammy concert? You said that in the video.
Yeah.
It looked like a Grammy concert. It looked like Sam Smith a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
Are we set apart, or are we trying to get away with what we can get away with? I don't know. It's kind of a hard conversation, I guess.
And that is something I did say, because to be fair, this the DJ thing, that was not that wasn't a Halloween thing. That was like every Friday the 13th they did that. So, but I think like you said earlier, I think I mentioned Halloween somewhere in the video, saying we shouldn't celebrate that either. But that DJ concert, whatever was happening itself, that tradition was not a Halloween thing in the slightest, though. So I have to be fair on my call outs. If we're going to call out Sam Smith and Doja Cat and Lil Nas X, I have to call this out if it looks the same way, right? I know in the DM he told me to watch Kyle's video. We've promoted Kyle on the channel before. He's also a Catholic. Kyle kind of felt the same way we did, but he went a little bit deeper in his dive on how that tradition even started. And the father that started it, who is not the DJ priest, the DJ priest kind of was just there doing a set. But the father who started this tradition started this in like the early 2000s. So this isn't something that's been going on for like, you know, hundreds of years. This is very new to that village in Portugal. And the father himself, his history doesn't even seem that great, because he got exiled from being a father. So I don't even know if we can still call him father, but I guess they still call him father in that village. I don't know how that works in Catholicism, but he got exiled because he couldn't stop playing with witchcraft and tarot and astrology and all that stuff, which makes perfect sense, because if this is what he keeps playing and touching around with, that's what we saw in that festival. He's like, hey guys, we're going to dress up as demons and witches to scare off the demons and witches. And that still doesn't make sense to me. Like in the slightest, that does not make sense to me, because that's like when Jesus was coming around and they're just like, oh, he's actually a demon or whatever. And he was like, what kind of sense does that make? He's like, so I'm a demon casting out demons? That don't make sense. So that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I'm like, because that doesn't make sense. How is dressing up as a demon gonna scare a demon? They gonna gravitate towards that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't make sense. And when I looked at it, it felt too much like the culture that we live in.
Yeah. It looked like the world. Like if I was to see that as an atheist and somebody was like, oh, that's a Catholic tradition, I'd be like, ain't no way. That looks like a regular party I go to.
Yeah. Or I'd even scoff, like, see how holy are they? You know?
And you're gonna get non-believers that do stuff like that. So we're always supposed to we're supposed to be separate from the world to the point where people could tell. And that traditional festival that they only do in that little village, there's no way you could convince me that was ever not part of the world. Because it technically, I mean, it is in all aspects now. Like I said, that little village somewhere here in this big part of the world, if that's what they want to do, I guess. But nah. I gotta be fair on my call outs, man. Because if I'm gonna call out a Protestant church for being like gay pastors and supporting abortion and stuff, I gotta call this out too.
Yeah. We want to be equally discerning to all. But it's all in love, you know. Like I said earlier, we don't have to agree on everything. And you guys bring up things that I try to learn from, and you know, I'm not gonna get it right all the time. Lord knows that.
Yeah, that is facts. But I do like the Halloween thing now because I remember last year as like a new believer, I'm just like, oh, I can't celebrate Halloween. And I didn't know what to do with my nephew. But I ended up finding this like cool little like a farm near us had like a little fall thing for the kids. And I took him there and it was actually pretty cool. Like got to go on the hayride and play with stuff, eat apples and all that. So I thought that was like a safe alternative. Looking into Halloween, how like he said it's not satanic. I actually like the original breakdown of it, and that might be something I do with my kid, you know. But then again, you brought up the costume thing because I wasn't going to do anything at all, but you were just like, if the kid's a dinosaur, you know, how's that satanic? And I'm like, you're kind of right. I mean,
yeah, and to me, as a mom, you know, like separating like even from the religious discussion, as a mom, like it's super fun when like the other day my kids found their little Halloween costumes and they were running around the house as like a dinosaur and a tiger. It's just too cute. And I'm like, oh, you know, so like, yeah, I would have missed out if I would have been like, no Halloween, you know?
Yeah. I could see that because I bought my cat a ninja costume last year. And while he hated it, like he kept taking it off, he looked so adorable. He was a little ninja, you know? So I can only imagine the baby would look cute too.
Yeah. There was one thing too that the that article that talked about Halloween pointed out. The saints, or wait, hold on. If you pull it up towards the bottom where it talks about the artists and how they would, yeah, you see how they like made statues about death or whatever, and there was like paintings and stuff because it was acknowledging that people would yeah, like that, for example. And then it had like a little blurb about how artists would do these things to confront the reality of death and like kind of like, I guess, not really be fearful of it or just acknowledge the reality of it.
Oh, here it is. It says, unlike people today who avoid the topic of death, our ancestors were very realistic and sober about it. They knew that death was unavoidable and could come at any moment, and they used this reality as a powerful moral lesson. The art depicting this, see below, was raw and real and filled with wry humor. Such artists look death right in the face. Perhaps their ability to do this has been misunderstood by a generation that fears death above all things, even sin, which is not a Catholic attitude.
So that kind of struck me because when I did a video talking about SatanCon, and I made a comment that triggered one of the Satanists, and because their gift shop had like death things, gore, and like skeletons, and it just, but this is a satanic convention, the Satanist temple, you know. So one of the things that I pointed out was like, you know, this is a glorification of death, and in that context, yes, it is. In this context, I wonder, and tying it with Halloween, one of the things that I am put off by is like skeletons and zombies and this death thing. You know, like I see the Christian walk as life, a triumph over death, where this seems like a glorification of death. But maybe, perhaps, thank you, Jorge, because your comment challenged me to find this article, and therefore now I'm thinking maybe it's because I grew up in this culture where death is like this, like over there, like stay away at all costs, where I'm like, you know, maybe as Christians we should look at death in the face. This is a reality, and not be so, I don't know. So maybe that aspect of Halloween that I'm so uncomfortable with, that I saw in the satanic convention thing, where I was like, death, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because I know I bring it up a lot where I just be like, ooh, I can't wait to see my father. I can't wait to go. I'm cool with that part now. Like, if I was the boss, I'd be like, yeah, I'm all right with that. But I get what you're saying. But I never looked at Halloween as like the scared of the death aspect. It was more so I had a whole issue with demons and monsters and ghosts and all that. So
like the paranormal.
Yeah, that stuff used to freak me out. And that's associated with Halloween. So, you know, that was my big thing and takeaway.
Yeah, so, definitely. Well, and then you see the movies that come out, and
and
then, like, you know, even going on the trick or treat in the neighborhood, you know, not all of it's like cute little mummies. Some of it's like, one of the people out here, they have like two, like, gosh, they have to be at least like 8-foot skeletons that they put on their lawn, and it's like, I don't like this. You know, not because I'm scared of it. It's a statue, but it's like I'm uncomfortable with, I guess, this like portrayal of death, and it's like elevating death on this holiday, and I'm like, this makes me, I don't know, like I don't like it. It's not light, it's dark.
Yeah, it is.
But maybe I'm wrong.
It is, because that's how we're brought up to see it, because you're right. That is how the culture is. So we're meant to see death as like a really bad thing. And most people are afraid to die. So they don't really take it how, like, you know, how I sit here and be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to go. I'm ready." You tell that to the average person, they're going to be like, "Are you okay? Are you depressed? You need somebody to talk to?" And it's like, "No, I'm good."
I just know what comes later.
Yeah, but they're not going to get that. I think the only thing that would want to keep me here a little bit longer, I'd be like, look, I just want to see the kid grow up, make sure they get married and have some kids. Then, you know, you can take me. I'm ready. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I get that for sure.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Last comment before we end the podcast is from Sandra Rodriguez, and she says, surrogate wife. Oh, wait, before I read it, this is from last week's podcast. Let me start there first. This is from the podcast where the woman was charging men $30,000 to be their surrogate wife. Okay, now that y'all know the context. She says, surrogate wife? That's a good one. You meant adultery, right? It's just another way to break a commandment. Like Jasmynne said, marriage is a covenant. And God takes covenant seriously. When you make a promise to love each other, it's love like Jesus loved us. Even when we were at our ugliest, he kept loving us. Even when we betrayed him with other gods, he kept loving us. He forgave us. As human beings, we make mistakes and things happen, but through it all, you are one with your spouse. This man who dished out money for his issues is obviously missing in his life what he is missing, not even his wife could fulfill. Marriage issues are dealt inside the home, asking God for guidance. Once you bring that third wheel into your relationship, trust is broken, hearts are betrayed, no families are broken, which was the devil's plan in the first place. I hope this little girl someday understands that she needs to value herself like God values her. If you look at all the pictures in the article, which I could not show y'all because they were pretty bad. Um, she is doing it definitely with the intent of drawing clients in with the lure of her body and the promise of some type of sexual satisfaction. Don't tell me that a man is going to pay 30K then just to talk to her. No, he will be looking at her to make sure he's getting his money's worth. That leads to lust of the eyes and sexual sin, not to mention adultery. Jesus said, even if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, you have committed adultery. About this is some of the comments that were submitted under the article were negative. So this is our world now. Lord save us all.
Yes, very true. Yeah, some of those comments were shady, and I was just like, oh Lord, have mercy. But yeah, absolutely. Once you invite the third wheel into the marriage, that's when chaos ensues. Because that bond is between one man, one woman who become one flesh. And if you start bringing in other aspects, this is kind of a similar thing with pornography, but the lust is going to break the bond. The lusting after someone else. Of course, you can. I mean, some people could say you can lust after your own spouse, and I guess that's okay, right? But or at least desire them. I don't know if lust is the right word. I don't know, but putting that godly desire onto someone else is a recipe for disaster.
It is, and I think we mentioned that too, right? Because we did mention she had an OnlyFans, so I was like, "There's no way they're paying 30K just to talk. Like they're definitely seeing something, or maybe some. There's no way. There's no way." I was about to say something, but I was like, "Nah, there's no way." Because I used to know a chick in college that was a sugar baby, and she wasn't making nowhere near that 30K, and she was doing some things. So
that's just sad.
Yeah. But the thing is, personally, I think she was a sex addict. I just don't think she was like owning up to it. Cause there was like stuff she'd be like, oh, I charge him X, Y, and Z to go on like dates and be arm candy. And I was like, yeah, but you had sex with the guys. And she's like, oh, I don't charge them for that. And I'm like, do what? I'm like, well, you might as well, because what you're charging for everything else is not enough at all. So like, if you're gonna do that, you might as well up the ante. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do that with your life, you might as well get the most bang for your buck.
Jeez. Well, if these women who make these choices could only see themselves the way Christ sees them, they would never consider. Yeah, they would never. Yeah. So it's just a testament to how broken their spirit is right now. Even if they are thinking that, oh, this is like empowerment, but it's so deceptive. The heart is deceptive.
I don't want to get a comment where somebody's like, "Are you condoning the?"
She's not, y'all.
I'm not, but I'm just being real because like I wasn't a Christian at that point. So my logic is, if this is going to be your business, it's like at least properly charge yourself to a higher degree. At least this chick, she's getting 30K to virtually talk to people. Like, she's never actually being touched and going to somebody's house. And it's still messed up. It still does. It looks like I'm pointing to you. My bad. I'm pointing to my computer screen. But like, she's never touching these guys. She's never seeing them in person. And it's still messed up. Like, it's still causing lust. It's still causing adultery. This is like literally porn level, right? But she's getting $30,000 from each guy for, I think she said 12-hour and 24-hour periods. So in my mind, old me is just kind of like, you was charging like a part-time job and this chick, and you doing things, and this chick charging $30,000, like, you undersold yourself.
I totally get your point.
Yeah. I don't condone none of it. I'm just saying, you know.
If you're gonna sin right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I saw the funniest video the other day. This guy was like, scamming takes so much work, and people don't understand how much work it takes. They think scamming's easy. He was like, I tried to learn how to be a credit card scammer, and he was like, the amount of note taking and researching I had to do, he was like, I might as well just get a regular job and be legal. He's like, if I gotta do all this, at least if I'm legal, I'm not going to jail. And I'm watching it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you might.
Makes sense to me. Jeez, I swear, people are just wild.
They are.
I can't even get in that mind frame that you got to be in to make some of these decisions. But hey, you know, look, all we can do is pray. Pray that people get introduced to somebody, or they see something that stirs them in their spirit, because, you know, like, the path that they are on, especially that girl who's making $30,000, you're going to find out eventually that money's never going to satisfy the need for God, ever.
Yep.
You're just going to end up hating yourself, honestly.
Yeah. That's like, who is it? Black China gave herself over to Christ a few months ago. I think she kind of went through the same thing, though, because her whole thing, like, she was a stripper. Then she was like rappers, baby mamas, but she was doing OnlyFans. She was doing drugs and stuff. It was like there was no satisfaction to anything until she actually gave her life over.
And see, anybody can be redeemed. Anybody.
Yeah, anybody can. It's just, you got to get there.
Ladies, you gotta love yourself, ladies. What are y'all doing out here? Come on.
It's easier said than done.
That is true. That is true, especially when you're, you know, you've been on that path and that mindset and the spiritual darkness and the hardening of your heart.
Yep.
Yeah. I definitely sympathize.
Yeah. I was nowhere near to that level of, like, because I always told myself, I was like, if it ever gets down bad, I would sell drugs before I stripped. Right. So luckily I never had to go into either position. But when I had my business, it was all I cared about was like material things, and none of it satisfied anything. It literally wasn't until like I gave my life over to Christ, and then I'm like, wow, I feel so much better. So I can only imagine like people that go through way deeper stuff than I've ever been through. Like, I can only imagine how happy and more peaceful they feel after the fact.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, that's this week's episode. Thank you for joining us. We hope you liked the little different format we were going on with this week. As usual, as I always say, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. We could pull your comments for next week's episode as well. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss when we drop a video. We drop every week. Now that we're done here, go ahead and head on over to Jasmynne's channel. She about to be off vacation. It's happening. Labor Day's coming.
Yay!
She's gonna be making videos again. Once you're done over there, head on over to my channel. Did I even say her channel is called Bold Reflections? You know what? The little thing popped up. It popped up. I messed up. It's okay. After that, head over to my channel. It's called It's Your Girl Saying. I do plan on making a video. It's been a long time, but I owe y'all one because I did do the charity backpack drive we had going on. Y'all see, it's gone. All of it's gone. I gave it away to where it was supposed to go with all the school supplies. So I gotta prove that to y'all in video format. So so you know where your monies went. All right. And other than that, thank y'all for joining us, and we will see y'all next week.